There is a change coming for Bukayo Saka next season. What's happening at Arsenal now will affect him next season. And look, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but 100% his numbers will be affected. And I want to get people's thoughts on it. Before we get into it though, do me a quick favour. If you could, please just hit like on this video. So people are going to be wondering what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is with the arrival of Viktor Gyokeres, Saka's numbers will go down next season due to penalties. And you might be thinking, penalties, what are you talking about? But there's stats out there that say, look, Viktor Gyokeres scores so many of his goals through penalties. So it's kind of like, which one do you risk? Do you risk Saka's numbers or do you risk Gyokeres' numbers? Because I saw something, look at this. Gyokeres last season scored the most penalties in a single season this century. He scored 19 penalties. So if he comes to Arsenal and doesn't take penalties, his numbers will be massively affected. That's, of course, only going off the evidence of last season and the season before. You know, he does score a lot of his goals through penalties. If penalties are taken off him, he still, of course, will score loads of goals. He knows where the goal is, but he won't have these 50, 60 goal a season numbers you would imagine if you're going off, like I said, recent evidence. And if you take the goals off of Bukayo Saka, he might drop from, at the minute, I mean, last season he scored 12 goals, 14 assists, but he was injured for a massive part of the season. If you look at the season before that, 20 goals, 17 assists. So you can say pretty comfortably Saka is a 20 goal a season winger. If you take the penalties off Saka, what does he drop down to? 15? 14? Are you happy with Bukayo Saka being a 12 to 15 goal a season winger if that allows Viktor Gyokeres to be a 50 goal or 40 goal a season striker? That's the decision Mikel Arteta will have to make. Does he keep Saka on penalties or does he go for Viktor Gyokeres? Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. If you have the decision of Gyokeres coming in, or will he take the penalties off Saka? What do you think is going to happen? Let me know in the comment section. Look, I just think it's going to be interesting because people are, like, I'm not hearing anyone talk about it. And it will affect, like I said, these guys' numbers, how they play. Viktor Gyokeres, 19 penalties in a season is a lot of penalties to take away from him. So if you say to Gyokeres, look, you're the new boy coming in. You don't just get to come into Arsenal and take penalties straight away when we've got a penalty taker in Bukayo Saka. This is the guy that's taking the penalties. This is the star boy for Arsenal, the main face of the team at times, Bukayo Saka. So you don't get to come in and take penalties. Would Mikel Arteta risk that? Or will he say, guys, look, Saka, I know you take the penalties, but I'm bringing in a striker. This is the guy that scores the goals. Look at his recent record. This is a guy who can score 50 goals a season. And we know that because he done it last season. He scored 54. 19 of them were penalties. You strip that away, he's just over a 34, 35 goal a season striker. That is still so many goals. But like many people have said, that was in the Portuguese league, which, fair enough, is a weaker league than the Premier League. Like I said, it's not going to affect things too much. I'm not saying Viktor Gyokeres still won't come in and score goals. But what I'm saying, and this is a more important factor than a lot of people are realising. Because if you take 20 goals off someone, of course, it's going to affect their numbers. And if you take penalties off Saka, that might be between 6 and 8 goals a season. Again, that will affect his numbers. So it's something as Arsenal fans we need to be aware of. If Viktor Gyokeres comes in and he's not taking penalties, and people say, oh, look at his numbers compared to last season. Well, that's why, because you're taking 20 goals off him in terms of penalties. And if he does take penalties, and Saka's numbers in terms of goals start to drop, then you know why. It's because he's not taking penalties. Like I said, luckily, these players are both good enough to know where the goal is. But it's definitely something to bear in mind next season. There will be a decision that needs to be made by Mikel Arteta. Who's going to take penalties? Will it be Gyokeres? Will it be Saka? And whoever's not taking penalties, their numbers 100% will be affected next season. Let me know your thoughts. I also wanted to talk about the news of Eze coming to Arsenal is not something that's, new. Essentially, this is news that's been out for a little while, but there's more and more rumours I'm hearing, not just online, but, I speak to people and they're ringing me up and they're saying, look, Bayern Munich are quite interested in Martinelli, and if that deal does get done, are you happy with swapping Martinelli for Eze? And it's an interesting question because it's like, me and so many other of you guys on here, and I know because I've had conversations with you guys, like, we rate Martinelli so much, especially the Martinelli of 3 seasons ago. But you can only kind of count or keep hoping that Martinelli comes back for so long. If it's 3 seasons ago, it will get to a point where you're looking at your watch and thinking, mate, you need to start coming good, because there will be players that we're looking at and thinking, oh, maybe he can come in and score 15 goals. We know you can score 15 goals because you did do it 3 seasons ago. But you need to start doing it now, otherwise you will get replaced, which will be a shame because I love Martinelli. But Eze's out there putting up numbers. Like last season, Eze, 14 goals, 11 assists. Martinelli last season, 11 goals, 5 assists. And a stat that I saw that was even more like, Martinelli was 10 goals, 6 assists. Madueke last season was 11 goals and 5 assists. But that was with 1,000 less minutes. So to these people that are saying Madueke is trash, we shouldn't be going anywhere near him, I want you to bear in mind this is a player that scored more goals than Martinelli last season with 1,000 less minutes. So it's interesting. Who would you guys want to start for Arsenal on that left-hand side? If you had the choice between these 3 players, and I know Madueke's not inherently a left winger, but he can play that position. Would you want to start in left wing next season? Madueke, Eze or Martinelli? Like I said, it's an interesting one. Everyone always likes the shiny new toy, and at the minute, Eze is the guy people are looking at and saying, right, if someone can come here and make a big difference, it probably will be Eze. And the thing about Eze that I do like is he is more versatile. You can play him centrally. He's very, very good at playing that central attacking midfield position. But we've got Odegaard in that position. And we've got Ethan Nwaneri probably pushing to play in that position even more now with this new contract. And again, that is a separate discussion. What does Arteta see Nwaneri as? Is he a central attacking midfielder or is he a right winger? And if he is a right winger, then why have you brought in Noni Madueke, paid 50 million for him? You would imagine Madueke would go ahead of Nwaneri in the pecking order. Not necessarily something I agree with, but I'm sure Mikel Arteta won't pay 50 million for a backup player to Saka and then play him not only behind Saka, but then behind Nwaneri as well. It just doesn't make sense. So Eze is the more versatile option. Martinelli, again, he's box office. And something that's very important that not a lot of people like talking about is how good are these guys defensively? And I already can hear people listen to this thinking, what are you talking about? These guys are wingers, they're attackers. But whether I like it or not, Mikel Arteta uses his wingers in a defensive shape most times. When we drop into that defensive shape, the wingers sit deep and they have to work defensively. When Arsenal lose that ball in the final third, the wingers have to work back. And there's something you can say about Martinelli working back. He is one of the best wingers at working back in the whole team. That's why Mikel Arteta continuously uses him in some of the biggest games last season when he's not been scoring, when he's not been on form, because he appreciates what Martinelli can do defensively. And I know he's a winger. He should just be focused on the goals and going forward. But the defensive shape of Mikel Arteta, whether we like it or not, has been so successful last season. We are one of the most offensively capable teams in the whole of world football, and that's shown by the amount of goals that we concede. And how does that affect Viktor Gyokeres next season? I'm going to do a more detailed video on that, because we know Viktor Gyokeres likes staying forward. He likes being in the box. But Mikel Arteta likes that striker to drop more centrally. We've seen it with Havertz, with Mikel Merino when he was played there. When you're in that defensive shape, the centre forward drops into centre midfield. Viktor Gyokeres won't be used to doing that. He likes staying forward, sporting play with wing-backs who get forward and whip the balls into Viktor Gyokeres, who is waiting in the box to finish their moments off. In this Mikel Arteta system, will we have to adapt? Will we have to do what Man City done with Haaland and said, look, we're basically going to just defend with 10 players. You need to just do what you do. We know you're not, and I'm not saying Gyokeres is as bad at football as Haaland, but just stay forward and score goals. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next season. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens on that left-hand side for Arsenal. Will we get rid of Martinelli and will we go for Eze? What does that mean for Arsenal's defensive shape? There's so many questions I can't wait to see the answers to. When Gyokeres does come in, who's going to take penalties, him or Saka? Let me know your thoughts on everything you've heard in this video. Like I said, thanks so much to everyone for watching and listening. And before you go, if you could do me a quick favour, just hit like and subscribe, and I'll speak to you all in tomorrow's video. Gooners, have a good day.